What if I told you that Michael Jackson had his own arcade? And no, I don't mean arcade game, although yes, he did have his own arcade game based on his own movie, Moonwalker. I mean his own arcade, as in a building full of his own arcade machines that he owned. Pretty crazy, right? Nope, not really. This dude also had a zoo and a theme park at his house/ranch, which was themed on Peter Pan. So yeah, having his own arcade doesn't seem too far-fetched, does it? Well, he did. And back in April of 2009, he worked with Julian Auctions to auction off a crazy amount of his items, which included, but definitely not limited to, his entire arcade collection. Now I say entire collection with air quotes, as there was a bit of controversy here as MJ changed his mind and requested some of the items back, and who knows, there may be more that didn't go up for auction in the first place. Either way, what's important for this video is that a PDF brochure and essentially a museum was put on, showcasing everything that was going to be going up for sale, including the arcade machines. Look, there they are right there in the background. Which means that we get a good look back at one of the most eclectic, incredible, and downright bizarre collections of arcade machines owned by a single person ever. Seriously, you are going to struggle to find an arcade collection more impressive than Michael Jackson's personal and private arcade collection. And today we're going to look back at all of the arcade machines that Michael had in his Neverland Ranch arcade. So buckle up, because this is such a bizarre collection of games. However, firstly, let's start off with the less bizarre and go look at the downright classic golden age of arcade cabinets from Michael's private collection. A tabletop version of Miss Pac-Man and Gallagher, two essentials to any retro-themed arcade, and Michael obviously thought so, as he had a second Miss Pac-Man cabinet, strangely housed inside a standard Pac-Man cabinet. Michael also had a standalone Dig Dug arcade cabinet, Donkey Kong, Super Mario Bros., Frogger, Karate Champ, Atari's brilliant Castle Crashers arcade cabinet, and the less brilliant basketball cabinet. With that said, like the majority of Atari's arcade games, the arcade cabinet was made to stand out from the crowd, so actually playing this on a real arcade cabinet was no doubt quite impressive. Now, moving forward slightly in time, let's look at Michael Jackson's fighting games. Yeah, he was quite a fan of fighting games. I don't know if it's just me, but knowing that Michael Jackson was quite a fan of Mortal Kombat, that's funny to me.
Fatality.
No, you're being ignorant. I'm so tired of people being ignorant.
Okay, sorry about that. Either way, in the fighting game space, yes, he did have a Mortal Kombat arcade machine, Tekken 2, Marvel vs. Capcom, Darkstalkers, X-Men Children of the Atom, which was the first ever Capcom game to use the Marvel license. You got Soul Calibur, and yes, obviously, you've got Super Street Fighter 2. All classics that obviously don't need any introduction. But then again, you also had titles like these. Time Killers, the weapon-based arcade game that many looked at as a rip-off of Mortal Kombat, although both were created at roughly the same time, so, you know, not really. It's a forgotten beat-em-up that allowed you to cut the limbs off of your opponents, and yes, Michael Jackson actually had this one. Warlords was a, to be frank, terrible 3D fighter that was a Mortal Kombat rip-off. Heck, it was such a rip-off that it even had fatalities. Yes, Michael Jackson had this too. And he also had Mocap Boxing, which was unsurprisingly a motion capture boxing game released in 2001, several years before Sony and Xbox did the same thing with the iToy and the Kinect cameras. Hey there guys, sorry to interrupt, but before going ahead and looking at some of the most obscure and super rare machines that Michael owns, I just wanted to take one moment and thank today's sponsor, Instant Gaming. By using the link below, not only will you be supporting the show, but you can get yourself a whole heap of games for Steam, Xbox, PlayStation or Switch, and for the most part, they're going to be super cheap. Games like Killing Floor 3, that's 26% off, Night Rain is 22% off, and yes, looking at the stats, quite a few of you guys have been buying that one. That new Lord of the Rings Tales of the Shire game is 28% off, RimWorld Odyssey is 22% off, Stellar Blade is 27% off, and AI Limit is 52% off. And yes, you can even pre-order games too. Games like Silent Hill F, which is currently 35% off. Mafia Old Country is 25% off, Metal Gear Solid Delta is 36% off, and Borderlands 4 is 24% off. No matter what you buy, as long as you use that link below, not only will you be saving money, you will be supporting the show at the same time. Massive thanks to everybody who's been buying their games through Instant Gaming using my link below. But for now, let's not take up any more of your time and get back to looking at Michael Jackson's Neverland arcade. Right, so we've actually got quite a lot more to get through, but let's pump the brakes from the obviously awesome, well, mostly awesome games, and look into the ultra obscure. Like how the dude had Zoltar-like fortune teller machines that most people associate with the movie Big.
I wish I were big.
Yeah, something tells me that MJ never wished to be big. A little joke there for the Tom Hanks fans. He had a whole bunch of seriously cool and old school looking prize redemption machines like Luigi's Corner, Ziggy the Clown and Jumbo. I did try and find footage or even pictures of these mostly forgotten old Elemechas for you, but they are so rare and obscure that most of the images I found online came from this exact auction listing PDF. And obviously they're all in tip-top condition. Multiple retro sweet, or candy to the Americans, sweet dispensers were also up for grabs, some of which were super elaborate gumball machines that included huge runways for your sweets to roll down before reaching the outlet. You of course had an air hockey table and a far more elaborate Super Chex hockey, very popular in old school American bars and arcades. You got an electronic basketball machine, an absolute must for every arcade. A couple of those electronic horse riding machines, one of which looked super vintage, as does the little red Corvette. You had two incredibly vintage looking slot machines, no less than 3 of those interactive photo booths. Remember those bar top arcade units from the early 2000s you would find in pubs that had games like poker, Spot the Difference and other random basic sport themed games? Yep, he had 2 of those from the same company, weirdly, so you would obviously have a lot of crossover here. One of those stupidly annoying rotary prize dispensing machines, which you would spin around and you would need to try and knock down the prizes by moving a pole from the center to hopefully knock down your prize into your collection box. You had a super vintage coin pusher called Clown Around. Seriously, I don't care what people think. Yes, I'm a retro gamer at heart, but I bloody love coin pushers, and this one looked really cool. And finally, footage does show that there was a giant Lara Croft statue on the stairs of his arcade, obviously. Which is just one of many life-size statues that Michael Jackson owned. Now granted, after looking at multiple home videos and interviews that took place in Neverland, not every one of these life-size statues stayed in the arcade building itself, but still, I wanted to add them all to this video as they're not only, kinda relevant, but I have heard that some did get swapped around into different locations on the property from time to time, so, who knows? Also, it gives me an excuse to talk about these 2 life-size statues. Again, life-sized statues of Batman. Now, this one, yeah, obviously that's Batman. But this one, anyone want to take a guess who's inside this life-size suit of Batman? It's Michael Jackson. That is a life-sized Michael Jackson statue with a life-size bat suit on. That is what endless money buys you. insane. Now, for retro gaming fans, let's look at the prize jewel of this entire collection. And I say retro gaming fans specifically, as obviously outside of that, the auction sold multiple classic items that were incredibly iconic to Michael's history. But yes, obviously taking all of that aside, Michael Jackson had what I'm guessing is a pristine conditioned Galaxy Force machine and an R360 machine. Michael does not mess about. Seriously, ask any serious retro gamer what arcade machine they would like to try over any other, and most will have one of these two machines near the top of their list. It's believed that less than 100 of the R360 machines specifically were ever sold, and significantly less than that exist nowadays. Without a doubt, these are the crown jewels, for retro gaming fans at least, of the Neverland arcade. An R360 machine, that's insane. However, I gotta admit, I also really liked that Michael Jackson had a bit of an obsession, it seems, to demo units. What do I mean? Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're about to jump from a Sega R360 machine, probably the rarest mass-produced arcade machine ever, to a Nintendo Virtual Boy demonstration unit. Nope, I'm not joking. Michael had a Virtual Boy demo machine. And he also had a PlayStation 1 demo machine, an N64 demo machine, a Saturn demo machine, a Super Nintendo demo machine, Dreamcast, Genesis, possibly with the Game Gear, although in the picture it does look like that is missing, and the all-important 3DO demo unit. Michael Jackson had a Virtual Boy demo unit and a 3DO demo unit. I mean, it surely doesn't get more impressive than that, right? Obviously it does. Go into any arcade and 9 times out of 10, the units that stand out are gonna be the racing games. The sit-down ones, I mean, they're absolutely huge. They take up loads of room, and based on footage of Michael Jackson walking around, I mean, I don't know what this is, an antique shop? You remember the footage of him spending several £1 million in about 20 minutes pointing out overly lavish and equally ghastly looking furniture and buying everything? I imagine the same thing happened when Michael Jackson went to whatever random arcade supplier that was lucky enough to be able to sell to him. You know, I'll have one of those, I'll have one of those, I'll have 2 of those, oh, and 1 of those. And again, guys, this is what he came back with. And remember, these are all the sit-down versions of the racing games. You got Jambo Safari, a favourite of mine. Essentially, it's kind of like Crazy Taxi, but you lasso the wildlife and reel them in. Easily best played in the arcade. And whilst we're on the subject of Crazy Taxi, not only did he have the original, but he also had 2 of the 3rd entry. No idea why, but yes, both have different serial numbers, so he definitely had 2 of Crazy Taxi 3 High Roller. He may have also had 2 San Francisco Rush 2049 cabinets too, although I can't see the serial numbers on these ones. Smashing Drive is also a bit of a Crazy Taxi-like rip-off, with possibly the worst soundtrack ever put to a racing game, played by the greatest musician of all time. 18-wheeler Pro Trucker and Virtua Racing were both owned by the King of Pop. Star Wars Episode 1 Pod Racer, which is a bona fide arcade classic that is getting harder and harder to find in a working state. Manex TT Superbike, Cruisin' Exotica, and Need for Speed are all popular machines. And then you got the slightly more obscure. And yes, I know not all of these are quote-unquote racing games, but I'm going to be chucking them into this section anyway. Hog Wild was a fairly forgettable 3D racer where you play as a cop running over gang members on their motorbike. F1 Exhaust Note was one of the later released and again fairly forgotten Sega sprite scaling games. Kart Fury is yet another mostly forgotten Formula 1 game. However, this one does have a dedicated group of fans that look at it as a true hidden gem of the arcade scene. Harley-Davidson and LA Riders is a personal favourite of mine, even though I've only ever played it in the arcades once, where you take control of one of several Harley bikers going from destination to destination as quickly as possible, trying your best to dodge traffic. Tokyo Cop Special Police Reinforcement is a cops and robbers type game that is quite floaty to control, but it's still quite good fun in the arcades. Alpine Racer 2 and Top Skater, again, I know they're not really racing games per se, but they are great arcade machines that require you to simulate skis and a skateboard with your feet as you race along a random track. And finally, you got Sega Strike Fighter, which is by far the game that I would like to play the most at this arcade, besides, the R360 and Galaxy Force machines, that is. A sort of spiritual spin-off to the Afterburner series. Surprisingly, this isn't the super rare, massive version of the game that is available. Still, it's a game that's not that fun to emulate, but it supposedly is great fun to play in a real arcade machine. This is most definitely on my bucket list. Right, that's all of the driving games done in his arcade/museum. But turns out that Michael didn't just like arcades, he was also quite the fan of pinball machines. Yep, pinball was a pretty big deal to Jacko, as the PDF shows that he had at least Simpsons Pinball Party, Popstar Pinball, which was an electronic pinball machine, Star Williams, Indiana Jones Pinball Adventure, Striker Extreme, Ripley's Believe It or Not, Austin Powers, and Terminator 3 Rise of the Machines. Really? Terminator 3? I mean, it's not a bad machine per se, but I don't know, I just have a hard time picturing Michael Jackson being a fan of the Terminator franchise. But turns out he was, as in the gun cabinet section he also had Terminator 2. Sports Shooting USA is a really bizarre throwaway target practice shooting game, as is Police Trainer 2, which is essentially a point-blank type game housed in a retro-styled arcade dome-like cabinet, which is usually used for old-school racing games. Beachhead 2002 is a rather obscure but still very impressive-looking cabinet that requires you to look through this giant helmet and shoot bad guys, allowing the main cabinet to show off what you are seeing for onlookers. Lost World Jurassic Park is obviously a classic arcade shooting game, and weirdly enough, Lethal Enforcers is on the auction list twice. And yep, looking at the auction list, one has silver chords and one has black chords. So yes, Michael Jackson had Lethal Enforcers twice. Remember the Simpsons arcade unit? Yeah, he had two of those too. Simpsons Bowling was another Simpsons-themed arcade game that wasn't nearly as respected as the arcade original, or the already mentioned pinball machine, but he did have a golf caddy-like vehicle covered in Simpson stickers, so you could arrive to the Neverland arcade in style. Plenty of other variants of golf carts were also available, including whatever this abomination was. Yeah, you know what, I think I'll walk. Right, let's finish up this list of arcade games, shall we? Because I know you're all waiting for me to say that one game. Here we go. Virtua Tennis 2 is a boring sounding but brilliantly addictive tennis arcade game. Danger Zone is what you get if you take Duck Hunt, change the pistol to a machine gun and change the mallards for fighter jets. A brilliant, yet again, super rare arcade game nowadays due to its easily breakable design. Sports Jam was a pretty average arcade sports game that got you to do random one-off sports challenges, and to be fair, in the arcades it was quite fun. WWF Royal Rumble was a poorly received arcade version of the not-so-great Dreamcast exclusive game, although, bear in mind, that is the dual-screen version of the WWF Royal Rumble arcade machine and only one screen is on, meaning that possibly only one screen works. Michael Jackson, even with all his wealth, had quite a few broken arcade machines in his collection, like the American football game NFL Blitz 99. He had two cabinets of this one game, one that worked and one that didn't have any controls. Same goes for NBA Hang Time. I mean, what classic arcade is complete without a quality basketball game? Well, again, MJ had two. This one and NBA Showtime. although that one, again, also didn't have any controls. Obviously, Michael Jackson had a Dance Dance Revolution machine, but he also had a Frenzy Express scooter-like arcade machine, although that one didn't have a properly working scooter floorboard. Oh, and by the way, we actually do have footage of him playing on that one. You got Bimani's Beat Mania compilation arcade game, Hip Hop Mania Complete Mix 2, and the lesser known Guitar Freaks game. Strangely, Michael had two different Ultracade arcade machines, which are essentially bootleg arcade machines filled with hundreds or possibly thousands of ROMs. I'm incredibly jealous of his Jalico Pony Mark IV, his Super Neo 29, and his Neo Geo MVS arcade machines. No idea what games he actually had loaded up on these interchangeable arcade cabinets, but it does show that he knew what he was doing by simply having them. Either that, or he was easily sold to. And finally, we got a whole heap of brawler type games with Aliens, Sunset Riders, Batman, Cavemen Ninja. Yeah, I mean, that kind of fits this section. And the incredibly impressive 6-player version of X-Men. And that's it. Besides one more arcade unit. A game based on a popular musical artist that had to go around and fight the bad guys to save the day. If you're thinking Moonwalker, you'd be wrong. Revolution X, the Aerosmith game, was in Michael Jackson's arcade, but Moonwalker wasn't. Seriously, I've looked through this 200-page long auction list and it's not on there. And it definitely wasn't at the museum either, because I've looked through loads of walkthroughs of that. Did Michael Jackson not own the Moonwalker arcade machine? Well, that's what I thought, until I watched the 60-minute special with Karen Langford, who is now the official archivist for the Jackson estate. In this documentary, we get to see several machines that Michael refused to sell to the auction house and keep just a couple of months before he died. In the video, you can see Jurassic Park Lost World, Hot Flash Air Hockey, that R360 machine, yep, there it is in pristine condition, right at the back of the warehouse. You got Top Skater, F1 Exhaust Note, Hip Hop Mania Complete Mix 2, Harley Davidson and the LA Riders, and of course, Moonwalker. Out of everything that Michael Jackson put up for auction, including his iconic glove, signed original Walt Disney stuff, crazy amounts of other merchandise and items from his musical career, these are the video games that he decided he wanted back. And Moonwalker, well, that never went up for auction in the first place. That's how important Moonwalker was to Michael Jackson. And personally, as a hardcore retro gaming fan and a hardcore Michael Jackson fan, I'm actually privileged to say that I saw the man live twice. This is just so crazy to me. The fact that he put so many iconic items up for auction before he changed his mind, but he never ever put Moonwalker, the arcade game, up for auction. That's insane to me. But hey, that's Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson's Neverland arcade was mighty impressive. Sure, it didn't have obvious games like Pac-Man, Space Invaders, Daytona USA or Outrun, but what it did have was a Virtual Boy demo kiosk and probably the most sought after and best quality R360 machine in the whole world, which now sits in one of 5 dusty warehouses under a plastic sheet. Add these 2 items alone with a whole lot of other weird stuff slapped in the middle, and in my opinion, that alone makes it one of the most impressive arcade and heck gaming collections ever to exist. Hey there guys, let me know down below, before you go away, let me know down below, out of all of these machines, let's take Galaxy Force and the R360 machine out of the equation, what is the machine or the system that you guys would like to try out the most? For me, I'm a big sucker for elemechas. I love me some classic arcade games for sure, but those old school electromechanical machines with all of the moving parts, they're so few and far between, and America had such a different elemecha scene than we did here in the UK. So for me, I just love looking around and seeing how all that sort of stuff works. For me, I want to go check out some of those elemechas. But yeah, let me know down below, what are the sort of things that you guys would be interested in seeing and playing if you ever got to go to this, probably one of the greatest arcade collections out there, surely. Now look, anyway, this is the part of the video where I give a massive shout out to all of my Patreons, all of my YouTube members that allow me to make videos like this pretty much every single week. All of those names that you're seeing down there, there's quite a few of them. We had a big bump after last night's live stream. All of these guys right down here get to see all of these videos early. They get access to the password zone where they get to see videos without any kind of sponsorships, without any adverts. They get to see behind the scenes videos. They get to see videos, like I say, early. Some videos that never get released, some director's cuts of videos that again will never get released because YouTube won't let me. But yeah, you can go and check out all of that. There are potentially 1,000+ videos in there. Go get access to the password zone and go and check out all of those I think awesome videos. Now, like I said, it's a part of the video where I give a massive shout out to all of these patrons, including Aaron Gorman, Akatimo84, Andrew Dalton, Arista, Big Rico, Boots and Pup, Brian Perez, British Video Game Nerd, Casey Garner, Chevmatic, Chris aka Brackman, Conrad Constantine, Action Saxon, Dina81, Derekuda, Enraged Gecko, Hawk89, Ian Quell, Insidious Bliss, Jay is Manchild, Jabba Al Aiden, James, Jeff Mianowski, JM, Joshua Villarreal, Keiju Samurai 1985, Livestream, MJJ, Mike Fallon, Nicholas Bertner, I've missed one, Mind of the Unsane, Phil Lowlins, Pixels.Limited, aka Samuel Victor, Paul Float, Proto Rock, Hades, Retro to Next Gen, aka Lou, Richard Algic, Robert Ramsey, Ryan Burford, Sean Shaver, Shadow Dragon, SSWB Redux, Swift Justice Peterson, The Sneaky Ferret, Thomas Coyote Baxter, Tim Lunn, Vitus Varnes, Vike Echo, Will Woodall, and Ye Old Hamburglar. Thank you to all of you guys and everybody else you see down below and everyone that supports me however you decide to do that, whether it's via any of these methods or by using instant gaming. I just want to say a massive thank you to all of you people. Now, yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video, but until next time, guys, this is DJ Slope signing out, and hopefully I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.